I have two brief questions I'd like to ask, if I may.
Hi, welcome to Left Foot Media. My name is Brendan Malone and you're watching The Daily Question. Today's question of the day: should James Bond be a female? Now, the reason I'm asking that question was because I stumbled across an article about some movie news the other day, and reading this article, it was as if the gates of heaven had opened and the beautiful music of angels had cut through the darkness and the cacophony of noise that we are surrounded with on a daily basis. Okay, maybe that's a bit of an over-exaggeration, but it was music to my ears when I read the following headline: James Bond producer says 007 won't be a woman. And now, of course, initially I was very triggered by all of this and angry about the fact that James Bond is not going to be transmogrified into a female, because that is an act of injustice and evil that is going to destroy the world for future generations of men and young women. How will they cope? How will they survive unless James Bond is a female? Seriously though, let's just read the article. Fans shouldn't count on a woman ever portraying James Bond, according to one of the film's franchise producers. Clearly, this franchise producer is a sexist of the highest order. Bond is male. Barbara Broccoli. What kind of male name is Barbary? What kind of white male bigot would be called? Oh, it's a woman. Okay, so clearly she has some sort of internalized misogyny. Barbara Broccoli told The Guardian, "He's a male character. He was written as a male, and I think he'll probably stay as a male." I hope it's more than just probably. Leaving aside her clear and obvious blatant sexism here. "And that's fine," she continued. "We don't have to turn male characters into women. Let's just create more female characters and make the story fit those female characters." No, why? What are you talking about? That would take effort and work, and it's just easier if we just take all the males and turn them female. That just makes the world better, doesn't it? 7 different men have played 007 over the years, including the character's current actor Daniel Craig, who, by the way, happens to be my favourite. There's been considerable interest growing regarding who will take on the iconic role once Craig, who is set to star in his 5th instalment to the franchise in 2020, steps down. Many fans have clamoured for Bond to take on a different look with Gillian Anderson. No, I don't think that would work at all. And Idris Elba, who's not a female, among the most popular choices to play the next character. Broccoli's comments about the character mirror an opinion shared by Craig's wife, Rachel Weisz, who is a great and talented actress, by the way, earlier this year. She told The Telegraph that author Ian Fleming created Bond to be particularly male, and he relates in a particular way to women. Why not create your own story rather than jumping onto the shoulders and being compared to all those other male predecessors? Weisz told the British newspaper. Women are really fascinating and interesting and should get their own stories. Yes, well, that's just internalized misogyny. That's why she's saying that. She is a bigot in women's clothing. We all know this. Craig, who is 50... well, his age does not show. He's 50, has indicated his next Bond movie could be his last. He told Stephen Colbert last year of returning to play Bond for the 5th time. "I just want to go out on a high note." This is, as I said, this is like music to my ears. First of all, yes, Rachel Weisz is absolutely right. Barbara Broccoli is absolutely right. Bond is a male character. Whether you like that or not, that's what Bond is. If you want to introduce female spies, which has been done before, by the way, in movies, write your own characters. Don't just be lazily piggybacking your way on the success of male characters. It's not going to help your cause. Trust me. As the old saying goes, the new old saying goes, get woke, go broke. This will be a way to destroy the franchise. You will just absolutely destroy James Bond if you were to try and perpetrate this level of wokeness upon him. Now, hear me out here. I don't think James Bond is a great role model for men in the slightest. In fact, particularly the former Bond before Daniel Craig, the way in which Bond was portrayed, he's actually a bit of a sleazebag weirdo, and I really probably wouldn't want him as a friend, and I don't think I'd want my daughters around this guy either. A lot of the time it's really questionable. Is this guy actually saving people because he wants to save them, or is he saving them because he wants to have sex with them? He's just a weird kind of guy in that regard. He is written through a former way, or what I would call an unhealthy way of looking at masculinity in that particular regard. And effectively, James Bond, if you think about his life, he should probably have AIDS like 20 times over because of his sexual promiscuity. And add to that there are previous incarnations of Bond who seem awfully rapey. However, I really love Daniel Craig and the new portrayal. I know this tears the sort of Bond fan base in two, but I like the new Bond, and I like the sort of more grittier sort of moments of realism that have been brought to this very unrealistic character, and some of the ways that they've started to explore these deep and interesting questions around Bond while still making a really enjoyable and really well-crafted piece of action and spy cinema. It's really interesting stuff. You can't make him a female, though. James Bond is James Bond. He's not Jane Bond. He is James Bond. Don't do this. This level of wokeness is just stupid. It doesn't help your franchise economically, and more importantly, it doesn't help women. What are you doing here? Let's make women into one-dimensional action hero characters, and yay, we've empowered women by doing it. Woo! No, you haven't. That's not helping anyone. Write good and interesting female characters. We don't lack female characters on screen. We just don't. What we lack, I think, is well-written female characters and a well-written male-female complementarity, because everything's about a power struggle now between men and women. We've got to have all the stuff that the men have got, and then we'll be empowered, and then we'll be happy. Guess what? You probably won't be. So what we need is more male-female complementarity, where we actually see the otherness of females and their unique feminine genius on display, and the otherness and the unique masculine genius on display, and working together. That's a good and interesting thing. And there's so many interesting ways you can write really good and profoundly deep and interesting, and even sort of, I guess, more basic action female heroes. Don't just go ripping off all the male ones. But here's the thing. I want Idris Elba to be the next James Bond. I think Idris Elba was born to play James Bond. I've been saying this for a very long time now. If there's one guy who should be playing Bond, it should be Idris Elba. The guy has this tone and this sort of acting chops that would flow on so nicely from what Daniel Craig and the sort of the Daniel Craig era of James Bond. And I think it would be just an awesome thing to do. To me, he's the guy who should actually be the next James Bond. James Bond, as I said, should definitely not be Jane Bond. If you do that, you will, in your expert level of wokeness, experience a major level of brokenness. You really will get broke by getting woke. So just don't do it. Really don't do it. And as I said, that article, as you can probably guess, and you can see why, really was like music to my ears. As per usual, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please let me know what you think in the comments section below. And if you like the content I'm creating and you'd like to see more of it, then please support me on PayPal or Patreon. There is a link for both in the video description below. That's right, I can hear my theme music too. I'll see you next week on The Daily Question.